Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial. So far we've covered adding, subtracting and multiplying numbers. So now we just need a way to calculate large divisions. So in this lesson I'm going to teach you something called the bus stop method. The bus stop method works using what we call the remainder theorem. But what exactly is this remainder theorem? Well, if I have a division, for example 5 divided by 2, we know that that's equal to 2.5, and I've given the answer here as a decimal, 2.5. Now, the other way of writing the answer to 5 divided by 2, this is using the remainder theorem, is to say that it's equal to 2 remainder 1. This is because 2 goes into 5 2 times, because 2 times 2 is 4, and then at the end of that we have a remainder of 1, because 4 plus 1 is 5. There are a few steps to finding the answer to a division using the remainder theorem. For step 1, we find the largest multiple that is less than the number you're dividing. This sounds really complicated, but basically means we find the biggest whole number that we can multiply this number by and still get an answer that's less than this number. So for example, when we were doing 5 divided by 2, the biggest whole number that we can times 2 by and still get an answer that's less than 5 is 2, because 2 times 2 is 4, but 3 times 2 is 6. After we've finished step 1 and we found the largest multiple that is less than the number we're dividing, the only thing we need to do then is subtract this multiple from the number that we're dividing to find the remainder. So for example, when we were doing 5 divided by 2, the largest multiple of 2 less than the number we're dividing was 4. We did 5 minus 4, and then we found that the remainder was 1. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense now. So let's just try and use what we've learnt to find the answer to 32 divided by 7, and we're going to give our answer using the remainder theorem. So first of all, for step 1, we need to find the biggest whole number that we can times 7 by and still come out with a number that's less than 32. So we'll just run through the 7 times table. 1 times 7, we've got 7, 2 times 7 is 14, 3 times 7 is 21, 4 times 7 is 28, and so far all of these numbers have been less than 32. However, when we come on to 5 times 7, we're going to get 35, which is more than 32. So the first part of our answer is going to be 4. Then we can move on to step 2, where we just subtract the multiple that we got from step 1 from the number we're dividing to find what the remainder is. From step 1, we've got 4 times 7, which is 28. And then 32 minus 28 is 4. So the first part of our answer that we found in step 1 is 4, and the remainder is also 4, so we can write that 32 divided by 7 is equal to 4 remainder 4. Now the remainder theorem, it has its uses, but most of the time we want to express our answers as decimals. So you might wonder why I'm teaching you the remainder theorem. Well, it's because this bus stop method that we're going to use to calculate large divisions is based upon this remainder theorem. We've got an example on the screen, 243 divided by 9, and now I'm going to run through how you'd use this bus stop method to calculate the answer to this division. So first of all, you take the number on the left hand side of the divide sign and draw it out like this with this kind of shape around it that we call the bus stop. Then you just draw the other number on the outside of your bus stop like this. It's really important to remember that the number on the left hand side of the divide sign is the one that goes inside the bus stop. The way I remember it is by remembering that the order of the number in the question is the opposite of the order that you would write in your working out. So here we have 243 on the left, 9 on the right, but in our workings out we'd put the 9 on the left and the 243 on the right. And then of course you always have your bus stop sign in between them. Okay, so once we've drawn out our bus stop, we're going to work through and divide each place value of the number on the inside of our bus stop by 9. But the important thing here is that we're not going to express our answer as a decimal, we're going to do the division using the remainder theorem. So we start off on the very left hand side here at the highest place value, and we'll do 2 divided by 9. Now when we're using the remainder theorem, the answer to this is just 0, because 9 doesn't fit into 2 at all, because it's already bigger than 2. So we just write a 0 up at the top here. The remainder that we're left over with is just 2, because we couldn't fit any 9s into 2 at all. We write the remainder as a little number to the right in the next place value column. So we've got a little 2 here to make 24. Then we're going to do 24 divided by 9. Well, 1 times 9 is 9, 2 times 9 is 18, but 3 times 9 is 27. So the first part of 24 divided by 9 is going to be 2, because 2 times 9 is 18. And then we're going to get a remainder of 24 minus 18, which is just 6. So 2 remainder 6. Just like we did before, we write the first part of our answer up here, 2, and then we write the remainder as a little number in the next place value column. Now we've got a 6 here to make this 63. Then, to finish this off, we're just going to do 63 divided by 9, which is nice and easy. 63 divided by 9 is just 7. So we write a 7 up here, and then we get a remainder of 0. Okay, so now you can see that we actually can't carry on what we were doing anymore, and our answer to this division is just displayed at the top of the bus stop here. So now we know that 243 divided by 9 is equal to 27. The bus stop method is quite like column addition, subtraction and multiplication because it takes quite a bit of practice to get good at. Let's just carry on practicing now and do a bit of a harder example. We're going to do 5,768 divided by 24. Just like we did in the previous example, we're going to write these two on either side of our bus stop, and the order that we put them in our bus stop is the opposite of the order that they're given in the question. So we have 24, then the bus stop sign, 5,768. Again, like we did before, we're going to start dividing each place value in this big number by 24. We'll start with a 5 here. Just the same as before, we can't fit any 24s into 5. So we write a 0 up here, and the remainder is just 5 to leave 57 in the next place value column. Then we do 57 divided by 24. Well, 1 times 24 is 24, 2 times 24 is 48, but 3 times 24 is 72. Because 72 is much bigger than 57, we'll go with a 2 for the first part of our answer here, because 2 times 24 is 48, and 48 is less than 57. Then we'll do 57 minus 48 to give 9, and that'll be the remainder for our second column here. We'll write the 9 as a little number right here to give 96 in the next place value column. Moving on to the next place value column, we've got 96 divided by 24. As we did before, 1 times 24 is 24, 2 times 24 is 48, 3 times 24 is 72, and this is actually a bit of an interesting example because 4 times 24 is exactly 96. So we write a 4 up here, and then we actually don't have any remainder, so we don't need to write any small number here at all. Then moving on to the next place value column, we've got 8 divided by 24, which is just 0 because we can't fit any 24s into 8, and then the remainder is just 8. Now at this point we'd normally write our remainder as a little number just above the next place value, but you can see here that we've actually not got any more place value columns at all. So what we do is we add 2 decimal points, making sure they're exactly on top of each other like this. We put a 0 there, and then we write our little 8 remainder just above our 0 here. So now we've got 80 divided by 24. We can go through the 24 times table again. 1 times 24 is 24, 2 times 24 is 48, 3 times 24 is 72, 4 times 24 is 96. 96 is bigger than 80, so we choose the one that's just lower than that, 72, which is 3 times 24. So we write a big 3 up here, and then we do 80 minus 72 to get a remainder of 8. Because we've ended up with a remainder again, we need to add another 0 on, and then draw a little 8 at the top left of this 0. You can see that actually now if we move on to the next place value column, we've got 80 divided by 24 again. We know that this is 3 remainder 8, so we'll draw a 3 up here and then a little 8 here, making sure to add another 0. But now we've ended up with 80 divided by 24 again. And you can probably see that this is just going to keep happening an infinite number of times. So if we look up at our answer here, we're going to get 240.333333 forever and ever and ever. We refer to this as a recurring decimal, and the way you'd say it is 240.3 recurring. So that's just an example of another little trick that the examiners sometimes like to throw in there to try and confuse you. If you find that your bus stop method is just going on forever and ever and ever, try and look for a recurring decimal. There's probably one in your answer. As I've said before, practice is so important when we're trying to learn the bus stop method, so let's just do one more example just to finish off the lesson today. We've got 923 divided by 56. Just as before, we flip them round and write a bus stop in between them, so 56 bus stop 923. And we can start dividing every number in each place value column of 923 by 56. First of all, we've got 9 divided by 56, and just like the previous two cases, this is 0 because we can't fit any multiples of 56 into 9. So we put a 0 up here, and then the remainder is just 9 when we write that down here. Now we've got 92 divided by 56. 1 times 56 is 56, but 2 times 56 is 112. So because 112 is bigger than 92, we write a 1 up here for the first part of our answer. Then we do 92 minus 56, which is 36, to find the remainder. And we write the remainder just here as a little 36 to make 363 in the next place value column. Then we do 363 divided by 56. And at this point you can probably see that sometimes they make these little intermediate divisions that we have to do a little bit tricky, but let's just work through this one together. 1 times 56 is just 56, 2 times 56 is 112, 3 times 56 is 168, 4 times 56 is 224, 5 times 56 is 280, 6 times 56 is 336, and finally 7 times 6 is 392. Eventually there we got to a number that was bigger than 363, which was 7 times 6, 392. So we go one lower than that and write a 6 up here as the first half of our answer. Then we just need to do 363 minus 336, which comes out to be 27, and write that as our remainder down here. Making sure that we add 2 decimal points in line with each other like this, and that we add an extra 0 on the bottom here like this. Just a little tip for you, when you're finding the remainder, you might have to do a big subtraction, and sometimes column subtraction can help with this. Another thing I'd recommend doing is, before you even start doing the bus stop method, is just write out the times table of the number on the outside of your bus stop like this. So in this case I'd write 56, 112, 168, 224, 280, 336, and so on and so on. Doing this can really speed up the whole process of using the remainder theorem to divide by this number here. Anyway, coming back to our question here, we've now got to do 270 divided by 56. At this point, if you'd written the times table down, you'd know that 5 times 6 is 280, so we need to go one lower than that and do 4 times 6, which is 224, so we write a 4 after our decimal point here. Then we need to work out the remainder, so we do 270 minus 224, and that comes out to be 46, so we write another 0 and a 46 up here like this. And you can probably see now that this bus stop method is going to go on for a long time. We keep getting bigger numbers as our remainders here. It might even go on forever. So a lot of the time you have to use the bus stop method to a certain degree of accuracy. For example, here I'm going to give my answer to 1 decimal place. So I'm just going to stop there and I'm just going to give my answer as 16.4. In the exam, if they want you to give your answer to a certain number of decimal places or significant figures, they'll tell you to do that in the question. So it's really important to look out for what accuracy they want you to give your answer to. And as with all of these kind of written methods like column addition, column subtraction, column multiplication, the bus stop method, they all require a lot of practice to get good at, but once you've got good at them, it's definitely worth it because it's easy marks on your exam. I hope this lesson was helpful. Thank you so much for watching.